Watching News at Prime, let's bring you this now. United States President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have agreed on a new peace plan for Gaza. The 20-point proposal calls for an immediate end to military operations. It will also see the release of all living hostages and those whose remains are still held in Gaza released within 72 hours. This is in exchange for hundreds detained in Gaza, and Trump has called the plan a historic day for peace after talks at the White House.
My plan calls for the creation of a new international oversight body, and we're going to put leaders from other countries on and leaders that are very distinguished leaders, and we'll have a board, and one of the people that wants to be on the board is the UK former Prime Minister, Tony Blair, good man.
At the same time, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has warned Hamas that there will be consequences if it does not accept the proposal. The group says it is yet to receive the plan.
I think we should understand that we're giving everybody a chance to have this done peacefully, something that will achieve all our war objectives without any further bloodshed. But if Hamas rejects your plan, Mr. President, or if they supposedly accept it and then basically do everything to counter it, then Israel will finish the job by itself. This can be done the easy way, or it can be done the hard way, but it will be done.
Let's continue the conversation now. University of Johannesburg's Center for African Diplomacy and Leadership's Dr. Oscar van Heerden joining us tonight from Johannesburg. Doctor, good evening to you. Thank you very much for your time. Can I begin the conversation with those words from the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, because in a way it'll probably help us locate where to start. His words are, if Hamas rejects your plan, Mr. President, then Israel will finish the job by itself. It sounds as though Benjamin Netanyahu is being forced into this, and today I watched a lot of this and people reading a lot into his body language. This is Netanyahu, as if he is a child that's being forced to do something that he really does not want.
Yeah, good evening, Kole, and good evening to the viewers. The truth of the matter is that we've been here before. We've seen Netanyahu lie about pre-peace plans. If you remember, back in early this year, there was a peace plan. All parties, including Hamas, agreed to it. There was a temporary ceasefire. And it was the war criminal Netanyahu that broke that ceasefire and then continued the genocide in Gaza. You know, his demeanor might be that of a child. Perhaps he is being forced. He certainly does not want to be on the wrong side of his only ally, President Trump. But the truth is that when he goes back to Tel Aviv, when he goes back to the Knesset, his parliament, and he stares his coalition partners in the eye, Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, they are going to make it perfectly clear that if he goes ahead with this peace plan, which they obviously will not support, then they will leave the government and the coalition government will fall apart, which then means that Prime Minister Netanyahu will no longer be in power and will have to face his civilian allegations and appear in the courts, which he has been avoiding because of the ongoing war and genocide in Gaza. So I don't think that Mr. Netanyahu is being honest. He is not going to subscribe to this plan. It's empty words. And he knows, for that matter, that the leadership of Hamas is not going to accept this top-down unilateral peace plan.
It's a top-down unilateral peace plan from the White House, from Washington. It prompts the question, what hope does Trump have that the Netanyahu administration is going to take heed of his plan, because he is on a different mission of his own. He wants to be a peacemaker, and he is hoping that at some point he is going to get a Nobel Peace Prize. Are these two pulling from two different ends?
No, don't make that mistake, Collie. Trump is anything but a peacemaker. If Trump wanted to end the war between Russia and Ukraine, all he has to do is to stop giving aid and money and weapons to Ukraine, and that war will end tomorrow. He's not prepared to do it. He talks the talk, but he's not walking the talk. Similarly with Gaza. Everyone in the world knows that the kingmaker here is the United States of America and the president in the Oval Office. He can stop the genocide tomorrow. No aid, no weapons, we don't endorse, and then Netanyahu will have to stop. He's not doing it. Instead, he has grand plans for the Gaza Strip. And this is why there's this unilateral. The reason why it's unilateral, Collie, is because Netanyahu and Trump, these two partners in crime, cannot be trusted. Every time they call people together to negotiate, they kill the people. It happened in Iran. There was an attempt now recently in Qatar where they wanted to wipe out the Hamas leadership. So the Hamas leadership is saying, even if you wanted to consult us with this new plan, we don't trust you because you want to get all of our negotiators and our top leaders in a room and then you bomb us. So this is why it had to be a unilateral top-down discussed between him and the war criminal Netanyahu. And it will not be accepted by the Palestinians. I mean, it is so indicative of an occupier mentality that the Palestinians cannot govern themselves. We must bring and import a board to govern the Palestinians in Gaza. And I, the big Trump, will be the leader of that board, and we will bring another war criminal, Tony Blair, to be part of it, one who is responsible for the murder of millions of Iraqis during the Iraqi war. So it's just a joke. No one is going to listen to him, and I can assure you that President Trump is lying when he says that the majority of Arab leaders have already signed up to the deal. It is not true.
Yeah. You've already mentioned Tony Blair. I was hoping that I was going to prompt that question before you got to it. So he is the person that is being proposed as leading some kind of transitional authority for 5 years in Gaza, while that country or that place tries to rebuild itself. You've pointed to the weapons of mass destruction that have never been found. That was at the time that he was Prime Minister of Britain, while George W. Bush was the President of the United States. So let's talk about whether all of this that we have painted here now is going to be acceptable either to the Palestinian Authority, as led by Mahmoud Abbas, or by the Hamas leadership.
You know, the unfortunate thing with the leadership of the Palestinian Authority and President Abbas is that they are so dependent on Western donors and Western money for their own survival that they don't really have a genuine say. The Palestinians in Gaza don't trust the Palestinian Authority, and that's why they voted for Hamas many, many years ago, because they just simply don't trust President Abbas and his cohort. But on the issue of Tony Blair, you know, this is a man whose hands are dripping with blood. As you rightfully indicate, Collie, he went into a coalition of the willing with Bush, lied to the world about weapons of mass destruction. This is the same former prime minister, together with Bush, who wanted to force former President Mbeki here in South Africa, wanted to force him to accept soldiers and boots on the ground in order to invade Zimbabwe. He's a warmonger, and he's someone who firmly believes that Hamas is a terror organization and not a resistance movement. So he's already biased, and yet they want to bring him to be the arbiter of this genocide. So it is not going to be acceptable to the Palestinians. This plan is dead before it even's begun.
So what becomes the fate of the people on the Gaza Strip, because they continue to die. As we speak, in all probability, that place is being pummeled by the IDF. This is the Israeli Defense Force. Do they have any say in this, or are they spoken for either by the Palestinian Authority or Hamas?
The plan is very clear, as war criminal Netanyahu has already indicated in the White House, that the plan will continue. The genocide and the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians in Gaza, and increasingly now in the West Bank, is going to continue. They want to get rid of all the Palestinians. It is up to the international community. All countries must begin to see this genocide for what it is, and real action is required, not platitudes of recognizing the state of Palestine. Keir Starmer can recognize all he like, for as long as his government is supplying components for military equipment to the Israelis, then those words mean nothing. Similarly with Macron, similarly with Australia and the likes. Platitudes is not what is required. Real action, as we now see with the flotilla. Spain, Greece, Turkey, putting their warships, protecting the flotilla, because humanitarian aid needs to get into Israel. And I'm keen to see how the Israelis are going to respond now that there's actual European countries involved in protecting the flotilla. That is what we need, including our own government. The South African government needs to do much more than just the case at the ICJ. We need to expel the ambassador of Israel. We need to impose sanctions. We need to cut all ties with Israel until this genocide finally comes to an end.
I'm glad that you have brought this discussion to the domestic front, if you like, and it's a perfect way to end it. The voice of the South African government, is it still as strong? Remember, it's now the government of national unity. Yes, the ANC and indeed the presidency, they appear to have strong-armed the partners into saying the final authority on foreign policy lies with the office of the president. But is that voice watered down now when you have a significant partner like the Democratic Alliance? Helen Zille was in studio here just a few days ago, and she said the word genocide is a big word, is such a big word. And I read into that. Of course, you can't say, she says that there is no genocide that is happening in Gaza, but by saying the words, genocide is a big word, it would seem that she wanted to reduce the veracity of that word, particularly on the back of the UN inquiry that came out recently and said there is a genocide that is being implemented against the people of Gaza. So I know it's long-winded. Short, is the South African government's voice still as solid?
You know, I think everyone will agree. Because, as you say, everyone agrees, even if Helen Zille doesn't want to admit it, everyone agrees there's a genocide. Scholars, academics, people who study genocide say it's a genocide. I would think it is a sad day in the history of South Africa that even though we are in a government of national unity, if that government of national unity does not have the moral compass to acknowledge and recognize that we need to act against this genocide, then I think there's something seriously wrong with our GNU partners.
Oscar van Heerden, thank you very much for your time and holding nothing back. He is with the University of Johannesburg's Center for African Diplomacy and Leadership. Thank you very much for your time.